What if the one person you loved most died before you ever told them the truth? This is the story of Emma, a young woman from Ohio, and the letter she never sent. Emma grew up in a small Midwestern town where life moved slowly, too slowly for her restless heart. She loved writing. Words were her escape. But she was quiet, the kind of girl who could sit in a crowded room and vanish into the wallpaper. There was only one person who saw her, Daniel. He wasn't perfect. He wasn't even the smartest kid in school. But he had a way of making Emma laugh, of reminding her that she mattered. They walked home together after classes, sometimes in silence, sometimes in long conversations about life and dreams. To Emma, Daniel was the boy who lit up her dark days. To Daniel, well, Emma never knew. But inside her heart, a secret grew. She loved him. And so, she wrote him a letter. A long, shaky confession of everything she couldn't say out loud. She hid it under her mattress, rewriting it 100 times but never sending it. Someday, she told herself. Someday never came. Years passed. After graduation, life pulled them in different directions. Daniel left for the military, chasing a future bigger than their town. Emma stayed behind, working in a diner, saving money for college. They texted less, called less, until one day silence. Then came the news. Daniel's unit had been caught in a roadside blast overseas. He was gone. Just like that. Emma's world crumbled. She spent nights clutching the letter, crying over ink that had never touched his hands. The words she feared to speak became the words that haunted her. Her family tried to comfort her, but grief doesn't listen to reason. Regret doesn't fade with time. She replayed it endlessly. If only I had told him. If only I had sent it. Emma drove out one night to the cemetery where Daniel was buried. She sat by his grave for hours, whispering words the world would never hear. I loved you, she said. And I was too afraid to let you know. When she finally placed the letter on his grave, her hands shook. The paper fluttered in the wind, almost as if Daniel himself had reached out to take it. But he couldn't. And that's when Emma realized. The letter wasn't for him anymore. It was for her. A reminder that silence kills love more than death ever could. That night, Emma made a promise. Never again would she leave love unspoken. But life has a way of testing promises. And soon, Emma would face another chance to speak. One that would demand more courage than she ever thought she had. Emma thought she lost her only chance at love. Until life gave her a second one. But this time, silence wasn't an option. Emma left the cemetery that night with swollen eyes but a sharper heart. Losing Daniel had carved a hollow inside her, but it also lit a fire. She told herself she would never again hold back love out of fear. Years passed. The seasons of grief softened, though never fully disappeared. Emma eventually moved to Columbus, Ohio, chasing her long-delayed dream of college. She studied English literature, perhaps because stories felt safer than reality. Words had always been her refuge, even when they betrayed her. By the time Emma turned 26, her life had taken a quiet rhythm. Classes, part-time jobs, small apartments. She had friends, but none who knew the ache she carried. She smiled often, but deep down, she feared she had lost the one love that could never be replaced. And then she met Jason. He wasn't like Daniel. Jason was older by 3 years, a medical resident who lived in the same apartment building. He had kind eyes, the sort that made people feel safe, and a laugh that reminded her of rainy days turned warm with coffee. He wasn't flashy, but he noticed her, the same way Daniel once had. First, Emma resisted. Love terrified her. Love in her mind was pain waiting to reopen. But Jason was patient. He stopped by her door with leftover meals from his late shifts. He carried her groceries when she came home exhausted. He asked about her writing and actually listened. Slowly, her guard began to fall. One winter evening, Jason invited Emma to a hospital charity gala. She almost said no. Crowds overwhelmed her, but something in her heart whispered this was important. She wore a simple navy dress, nothing extraordinary, Yet Jason looked at her like she was the only woman in the room. As they danced slowly under string lights, Emma felt her chest tighten. The fear and the memory of the unsent letter collided in her mind. What if she loved him too late? What if life snatched him away too? She wanted to speak, to tell him how her heart raced when he was near, how he made her believe in safety again. But the words stuck like thorns in her throat. She smiled through it, whispering jokes instead of truths. Later that night, back in her apartment, Emma stood in front of the mirror, clutching her dress. She remembered Daniel's grave, the fluttering paper, the silence that had ruined her. "Not again," she whispered. "I won't lose another chance." But courage is never as simple as promises. Spring arrived. Emma and Jason grew closer, sharing late-night talks and Sunday breakfasts. He never pushed her, never demanded words she wasn't ready to give. But Emma knew he cared, and she knew what she felt was deeper than friendship. Then one afternoon she got the call. Jason had collapsed during a shift, exhaustion mixed with pneumonia. He was in the ICU. Emma's chest burned as she raced to the hospital. Memories of Daniel's accident flashed like lightning. The fear of losing without speaking clawed at her lungs. When she finally saw Jason lying pale against white sheets, wires tethered to machines, something inside her snapped. This was her moment, her second chance. She sat beside him, trembling, holding his hand. His eyes were half closed, heavy with medication, but he was alive. Alive enough to hear. "Jason," she whispered, her tears spilling freely. "I need you to know this, I love you. I've loved you for months, and I was too afraid to say it. I lost someone once because I never spoke, and I swore I wouldn't let that happen again. So hear me now, I love you, and I'm not going to hide it anymore." For a moment, silence stretched across the room. Emma's heart pounded like it might burst. Then Jason's lips curved faintly into a smile, his voice raspy but steady. "I heard you, Emma. And I love you too." Relief crashed over her like a tidal wave. She pressed her forehead against his hand, sobbing with gratitude. Unlike Daniel, Jason had heard her words. Unlike Daniel, she hadn't been too late. Jason recovered slowly, but the near loss bonded them deeper. Emma stayed by his side, reading aloud her favorite stories, sometimes even her own writings. She no longer feared words, she wielded them. By summer, Jason was healthy enough to walk with her through the city park. On one warm July evening, as the sun painted the sky orange and pink, he stopped by a fountain and turned to her. "Emma," he said softly, "life is short. You and I both know that. So let me say it now, I want to spend mine with you. Will you?" Tears blurred her vision, but this time they weren't born of regret. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, 1,000 times." Emma never forgot Daniel. She never erased the letter or the lessons his loss had carved into her soul. But she learned that grief and love could coexist, one teaching her what silence destroys, the other proving what courage can save. Her story became a vow, not just to Jason, but to herself and anyone who listened. Don't wait. Speak your heart. Tell them now. Because in the end, the only words we regret are the ones we never say. Some nights, when Emma lay awake listening to Jason's steady breathing beside her, she thought back to that lonely cemetery evening years ago. She remembered the girl she had been, broken, trembling, clutching a letter that never found its voice. That girl had believed her story was over. That love was a chapter that had closed too soon. But time had whispered something different. Life had shown her that endings are not always permanent, and sometimes loss carves the space for something new to grow. Emma often told her students, because yes, she became a literature teacher, that stories are not just about characters on paper. Stories are mirrors. They remind us of what we fear most, and they challenge us to face it. And her own life had become the clearest story she could ever teach. That silence is a thief, but courage is a gift. Jason would tease her sometimes. "You talk like everything belongs in a novel," he'd laugh. But he loved it, because he knew that when Emma spoke now, every word mattered. Every word was alive. Years later, when they welcomed their first child, Emma held the tiny bundle against her chest and whispered the same vow she had made at Daniel's grave, the same vow she had kept with Jason. "I'll never leave love unspoken. Not with you. Not with anyone." It became the rhythm of her life. Birthdays, anniversaries, even ordinary Tuesdays. Emma said the words. She told Jason she loved him, she told her parents she was grateful, she told her friends they mattered. No moment was too small, no day too ordinary to give away love. Because she had learned the most painful truth of all. Silence doesn't save us. It only steals from us. And so, if you take anything from Emma's journey, let it be this. Do not wait. Do not assume tomorrow will give you a chance. Do not believe that people already know. Speak your heart, because love, once spoken, becomes a legacy. In the end, Emma's story wasn't just about Daniel or Jason. It was about all of us. The people we've lost. The ones still here. The ones we hold back from out of fear. She proved that healing isn't forgetting. Healing is remembering with courage. And maybe tonight, as you listen to this story, there's someone you're thinking of. Someone you've been silent with. Don't wait. Tell them. Tell them now.